everybody's ready, I will call the meeting to order. The zoning bylaw study committee meeting is called to order. I'd like to say the pledge of allegiance before we begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We're lucky to have Serped with us this evening, and I'm not sure how ready we are.
We are.
But where we left off was we were discussing some of the more important aspects of Carver that we wanted to put on the save list, potentially.
Yeah, so before we drill in today, we just wanted to go kind of an overview of where we are with like the budget and kind of the project in general. So we looked at how much more time we have, and we have about 2 to 3 more meetings after this that we can come back for. So we gotta just like make sure that we continue to move on expeditiously, so that we're able to get, everything done within the time frame. But just an update, so yeah, 2 to 3 more meetings would be what we can come back for.
I think we made pretty good progress last meeting, so I
Yeah.
think we really narrowed things down, so we should add a little bit in for importance of saving, and then we can just review what we've already done.
Great, okay. So just to review what we've done, we do have the draft receiving areas shown here in orange. Draft sending areas so far in blue. So we're hoping we can finish the map of the sending areas tonight so that the next meetings can mainly focus on the bylaw text, and we can certainly come back to the maps as we were talking about before the meeting. Feeding back and forth between might be helpful. Yeah. But one thing, so trying to focus on the sending areas and think about where we want them to be. We can have kind of a freewheeling conversation, but we also did bring in some information from the town's open space plan. So there's 2 particularly interesting maps for our purposes in that document. One is this, and it's going to show up blurry because of the way it stretches it, but one is this Scenic Resources and Unique Environments map. So this map, it has a series of kind of starred points here that talk about some of the important places in Carver. Here's like a better, let's see. So we recreated those points so you can see them a little bit better. They're the green circles here. And we should be able to, it's drawing them still. But yeah, let me see.
Now, this is the swamp, correct?
That's the
Yeah.
Great Cedar Swamp.
Yeah.
Yep. And what do it's difficult to read.
Yeah. So these are the Tremont Street cranberry bogs, I believe.
Yeah.
There's the Pine Barrens.
I'm sorry, Helen, I'm having trouble understanding you. It's the Wet Street Cranberry Bogs?
Tremont, I
Okay.
believe. Yep.
Oh, good. Didn't we add some sending areas from this area?
We discussed it, but we did not nail down specific parcels. Yeah. So I'm going to turn the image off, but I'll leave the points on.
Good.
So yes. And just so just to get it all out there on the table, another map that's helpful from the open space plan, I think, is this open space strategy map. Again, it's a little hard to see, but what you can see here is there are certain areas defined as important open space for linking regional projects, is what's shown in the gold. And then linking secondary water resources, that's shown in the green. And buffering wetlands is shown in the blue. So we can kind of play with either of these maps in addition to, our parcel base that we have been using as we want to consider specific properties to include in the sending area.
Now, what linking projects are potentially, I mean, that's a pretty vast area in the gold.
Oh, certainly, yeah. Let me see.
Didn't think we had any rail lines coming through, but I know the bike path through from Middleborough to Miles Standish Swamp was under consideration for many years.
Yeah. I'm going to just try to share this. Hold on. New share. Okay. So this is the actual plan itself. So yeah, I think it was just the idea that there's these regional resources, the wildlife management area here, Miles Standish, so kind of linking through to there. Again, not something we need to consider at all in this project if it's not helpful, but if it is helpful, we can certainly think about that too.
Now, if I may, Mr. Chair. So, Helen, just for the people who might be listening at home, so those orange areas, if you could put them back up, those are the ones identified in the Open Space and Recreation Plan as being the ones we're looking to preserve. And one of the reasons the area is as big as it is if the farther south you go and the farther west you go, the wetter it becomes, the more scenic it becomes. And there's just, the other thing is, one of the reasons this map looks like this is because there are really very few places in terms of zoning where pretty much anything can go in terms of commercial or industrial. There's only, the spaces they can go is pretty limited, so and a lot of the blue, which is uplands, if I remember correctly, that's uplands area?
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
buffering bogs.
Buffering bogs, yeah. I mean, there's 50% of the town is wet and 50% of that is cranberry bog. So it's a lot, it's a big area. It's just the way it is. It's, you can't really change that. So a lot of that upland, I think at the time that the residents said they wanted to preserve.
I think you made a great point there too, Sarah. You and I have been talking about this, the consistency of the maps over the years, going all the way back to 2000 and 2005, 2008. The regional open space plan for the Plymouth Carver Aquifer. All of the same areas jump out, but I mean, you just hit it right on the head. Carver is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think when people have taken this deep dive into it to look to see what they should do for TDR or potential saving or potential development, it's always like, this is what we have to work with.
Yeah.
So they've tried to make the best decisions possible. So you guys are kind of bringing it right in now and kind of fine tuning it. And that's why I think after we finish the map exercise, today, I think that'll be it. I mean, fourth time's a charm. And I was saying before, a lot of it, the choices have been the same to different levels of sophistication. It's only the people that have changed for the most part. Some of us are still around. So there's that consistency of thought that's gone on here in Carver.
Definitely.
The white areas was more on the previous map, but, so you had the light blue, the gold color, and I think there was some green, and then there was the white areas.
Yeah.
What were the white areas?
I think that's the area where you can put industrial commercial.
Yeah, I think so.
It might be tied to that. In the map, it's just simply not identified as part of the open space protection strategy. So,
Well, I happen to know it's because that's where the industrial and commercial is zoned, so.
Well, maybe we should start down by the Tremont Street cranberry bogs and I think the Pine Barren.
Can I just ask something?
Sure, please.
Do you have a map of receiving areas that sits on top of this?
receiving?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Yep, so that's what's showing. So the dark orange here is where we had identified those draft receiving areas. So for the most part, it definitely is within the white, white spaces.
That's what I was wondering.
Yep.
Thank you.
A little different here, just in the center, but yeah.
Do we identify any receiving areas in South Carver?
Let me change the color really quickly here. So it's shown right here in the dark blue. I'm going to make that hopefully easier to see. But yeah, so that was the sending we identified so far.
Oh,
Could you identify what parcels those are?
but I think we pulled the ones off of Sampson's Pond, anything
Yeah.
on the bottom right-hand corner there.
Why would we have pulled them? We wanted to save them.
No, from the receiving
Be-
area.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought last time we switched them to to sending areas.
No. So what are, oh, I don't know, because I wasn't here last time, yeah.
In the-
So what are those parcels?
Those,
Oh, those are sending areas.
yeah, I thought
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, good. Phew.
Because we had discussed that
That's
the
easy.
town was, or a lot of that property was in conservation restriction as it was.
Yeah, or will be. So if you move south, Helen, to the white areas,
Yep, sorry.
and if anyone knows differently, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the white area would be South Carver's receiving area. The problem there is, I think, most of it is built out. I mean, there's still some land there, but there'll be a big, say, 10-acre parcel, and it has one commercial, company on it. Do they have room for more? Maybe, but,
I know it's an environmentally sensitive area also.
well, south of that is.
Yeah, so here's our existing land uses. So this is an existing residential development, and this is still, I guess, agricultural land here.
I
But
know
yeah,
part of the problem was water supply too, there was none down
Yeah.
there.
True.
Yeah, that's right, we batted that around pretty good the last time. We were talking about the extension of infrastructure to that part of town.
Can always add it in later if we manage to get some sort of public water supply down there, but we're pretty limited right now. Can we look at the Tremont Street bogs there, and we can discuss that? We'll go with that one first, because I know we had previously gone over it at the last meeting a little bit.
sure.
So what are we discussing about the Tremont Street bogs? I'm sorry, I missed
As sending areas.
Yeah, okay.
And I know that one of the few pine barrens left are here in Carver, and some of our surrounding communities touch on it. And I think that's fairly important also.
Yeah, I would agree that land abuts the forest, so to extend that up, I think, would be very valuable. So I'd like to see that stay in a sending area.
It's hard to see that.
So are we thinking, here, let me go to the land use.
I'm sorry?
So specifically, the parcels that we're thinking about are ones that are still bog, not the ones that are currently developed as housing units, correct?
Upland
Yeah,
areas, developable.
okay.
But I'd say definitely the ones east of Tremont, the ones that do abut the state forest.
And actually, if I'm not wrong, I think some of that land of the Tremont Street bogs actually has a North Atlantic white cedar swamp on it as well, farther down on Tremont Street. It's, if you could show the power lines, I can show you where it is.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna get this into our sending area quickly here.
Now, that's not one singular parcel, is it?
No, isn't it the purple one above that too, Helen?
So
to
That
the,
yellow one, that's the 104 Tremont Streets and Carver Solar that we approved a couple of, it's like a 780 acre parcel,
Yeah,
and it has 2 sets of solar panels on it approved, but the rest of it is a vast tract of land.
so what about that purple parcel to the, yeah, right there? Mhm.
Yeah. Yep, that's right now.
that's the other cranberry bogs over there, I believe.
Edgewood Bogs LLC.
Edgewood,
Yeah.
I think that those should be considered part of the sending area.
Mhm. I think so. Yeah, there's the power line. Yep, that's the property. Or the area, I don't know if it's one parcel.
And where do the Pine Barrens begin?
That's more in the state forest,
Okay,
that whole area. And around it, like Cranberry Grove,
Yeah.
Cranberry Road has some too.
It transitions in off of there, you start getting the Pine Barrens vegetation, and it just transitions into the state forest.
Yeah, the tall eastern white pines start getting shorter, and more of the pitch pine starts coming out.
That
Scrub,
goes through,
scrub.
that goes down into Bourne and down to Cape Cod base.
Yeah.
Down around there, it's huge.
Mhm.
That's one of the things too, it's a good thing to do this because you probably have two of the largest, in this area, two of the largest pine barrens left in the world.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have one of the largest two on the East Coast for sure.
Mm. I think New Jersey has one, but
New Jersey. does.
not like we do.
So, now that's listed in light blue?
Pine Barrens, looks like it.
Yeah, I think that's the forest.
Yep, that's
Mhm.
preserved.
And that includes Miles Standish as well as?
That is Miles.
Yeah, that is Miles Standish State
that's-
Forest.
That's the part that's in Carver, yeah. Mhm.
Well, kind of piggybacking on that, I would say go down to Cranberry Road and the parts that abut the road, those parcels, I would recommend they be in sending areas, because there's, like Bill was saying, the infrastructure down there can't really handle any more than necessary, and that is a very well-traveled route for bicycles and runners and stuff, so I would encourage us to protect as much land on Cranberry Road leading into the forest as possible. Because there are some areas that are still wooded.
Yeah, on Cranberry, so it looks like it's the biggest, this is kind of the biggest one.
So what's the brownish orange space there, the large one? Yeah, that one.
This one, it would be some kind of bog, let's see, let me see. Two.
'Cause it seems like there's a pretty good level of development.
Well, that's off Wareham Street,
Yeah, that's,
Deer Hill Lane and Pine Tree Village.
So Gilmore Cranberry Co. Inc.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those are.
That's Wareham Street.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, Gilmore, no, Gilmore's off
No.
Cranberry Road.
It is?
It may not belong to Gilmore anymore, but that's where they were.
Oh, I think those are Piper bogs, people refer to them, but
What kind of bogs?
I know the Piper family lives down there. But I would look at anything along the road that's undeveloped that abuts the road would be valuable. Especially as things like complete streets and the bike path are kind of in the works, since that road is one that's mentioned in those plans.
right,
Is that road really safe for a bike path though? Because of the amount of traffic and the amount of trucks that travel that road?
It has to be used wisely because it is such a main thoroughfare into the forest. It's about finding the safest way to use it by preventing more truck traffic and vehicle traffic. That's why the stuff on Federal Road would not be good for any more dense development, because that area really can't handle more traffic.
Now, are we talking about Cranberry Road or Wareham Road?
Cranberry Road.
Oh, okay, I thought you were talking about Tremont Street.
Oh, well, Tremont Street's scary, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
advocate for a bike path on Tremont Street.
No, but specifically Cranberry Road.
Yeah,
Everything on there that's not developed already, I think would be worth protecting to prevent anything more.
Although, I have to say, I was driving down Tremont Street the other day, and that's a long road before you get to Plymouth, and it's beautiful. And the same goes for Wareham Street. Have you been all the way to the Wareham line on Wareham Street? It's really, really beautiful. It twists and, it's twisty-twiny. Neither one are probably safe for bikes, but maybe they should be. I don't know, just a
So
thought.
that's where you might consider like a shared use path on the side of the road, so that way
Sure.
people can travel, and then if there's any walkers,
Yeah.
they can walk.
Right.
Because they're beautiful roads,
But the more development you add, the harder that makes it, so.
of course.
Now, there's,
So would you also include this land down here in that calculation as leading to the forest, or?
Those are gigantic bogs. It's like 100-acre bog. So I don't know,
Are we still talking about Cranberry Road?
well, those bogs are on Cranberry Road. That's where the purple is on the left, that's Federal Road. And the northern part of that is Cranberry Road, because that's the Miles Standish State Forest there. Those bogs kind of go in there. So if you can zoom in there even more, where the purple, all around the northern part of the purple, anything that's wooded there on the road that's outside the forest would be great. And I know there's more on the northern part of Cranberry Road. On either side of Miles Standish Drive there, there's still wooded area. And I know in the past, I think the last meeting, someone mentioned we would like to protect the area around every cranberry bog from having a couple of houses go in there, but I don't see that being practical, even though it's desirable. I don't know how we would zone that. And I think, Connie, you said in the beginning that we don't want to have hundreds of sending areas. So if someone could say, oh, hey, let me give you a little piece of Joe Schmo's land, like, we don't want to have gigantic or tons of parcels. We want to really just focus in on what is valuable and usable and the most important.
What do you mean we don't want to have hundreds of sending areas?
Well, if you put like that whole open space area from the past, if you put that in there, then you might get developers who just carve out a little chunk of a piece of land. If we put it in the sending area, they carve out a chunk. Here, you can have these 5 acres that's in the middle of a piece that,
Sending area is what we're protecting, though.
well, I know, but then they could carve out too many little pieces, and then the town would have all these little speckles that, don't actually amount
yeah,
to anything.
we want it to be the most, what we would most like to see preserved, so.
I'd love to see it all preserved, but knowing that people are going to potentially be able to use that to get more elsewhere, I think we really need to narrow down the most important parts. Because again, I always start small. We can always add more. If this starts and it's working out and TDR is great and we're saving what we want, let's expand it. When you're changing the zoning on something, start small. It's so much easier to expand it than to take it back. So pick and choose a few really important places. And let's get the bylaw written with some really, we know we want to protect this, and then get it working, get it approved, make sure it's right, and then go back and add more.
Now, what
Can you tell me how many acres we're looking to protect at this point? How many acres?
That is an open question.
It would be pretty lopsided with the size of the bogs. I mean, it's mostly bogs, and
Well,
that wouldn't fall under the sending area, but the uplands surrounding the bogs.
that's the thing. It's The upland surrounding the bog.
Right,
And like I
and
said,
that's what I'm talking about. How many developable acres? Because that has to be taken into consideration when you're looking at the receiving areas and how much density is gonna go on there.
yeah.
So I don't think, you know,
I think it's going to be really hard to add up the number of acres in the sending area, because if you, like I said, if you drive down the end of Wareham Street, Tremont Street, Cranberry Road, all of those, but even more maybe Tremont and Wareham Street. It's just stuff that probably a lot of people in Carver have never even seen. I mean, it's beautiful stuff. And it's not just the box, it's all the land around it. So it's going to be lopsided, I'm pretty sure.
but we still need to know that number to figure out what we're talking about with density moving forward.
Yeah, so we
We've
need,
gotta have that number.
we need to look at it parcel by parcel, I would guess.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys would?
Right, but some of those larger parcels, like the Cranberry Bog there it's just a parcel. And that's something I suppose that would have to be taken in consideration if it comes up for splitting up through subdivisions or A&Rs and things along those lines. That would have, I suppose that would ultimately, on the exact amount, would fall under the planning board in what they approve through the future uses.
But isn't developable acres developable?
It's just, yeah, but if
You
it's,
know?
The upland around it is.
yeah, so you have, as for instance, the 800 acres of cranberry bogs that we walked, are beautiful, beautiful, but out of that, how much of it is developable, because that's just one parcel, and they can break that up into single or 5 or 10 acre parcels with a variety of build-outs on them. And that's why we couldn't get an exact number, just a rough generalization.
Well, you could get an exact number if you went parcel by parcel. Just walk down the street and go with the assessor's map and get your parcels and see how many acres they are. I mean, it's
And I'm
doable.
thinking,
So-
you know, with the changes in the bylaws that are going forward, you know, supposedly, if someone's got a townhouse development, and now they're going to multiply that because they've moved it from a sending area to a receiving area, we need to be able to tell the citizens what this means for those areas.
That's true, yeah.
So you can, so some information is useful, but will not ultimately be like accurate. So, you know, the kind of exercise we're talking about going parcel by parcel. You can take the net upland area, and you can divide it by, you know, a minimum lot size to give you the number of units. That said, that's a really crude estimate because it does not take into account like lot sizes, the particular shapes of things, the way that the wetlands are shaped, the way that you could have access drives, the way that you could, there's just a million things that we cannot, like we can get an idea, but our ability to have a secure number is always going to be limited.
Right.
And that's just,
But we need some kind of idea, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
You
it's
know,
just-
take
Get a decent ballpark figure.
a ballpark figure,
Say,
you know,
okay,
there's,
this potentially could yield, say, 80 houses on this parcel,
exactly.
and then it just. now they
Because
would
you don't
come
want to
in-
have, you know, 3,000 sending acres
Right.
and only 80 receiving acres. That's not going to work,
Well, depending on the density in the receiving area.
depending on the
Yeah.
density.
Carver will have some skyscrapers, right?
No,
I don't think that's what we're looking for.
no.
Okay, so Bill and Helen, how would this work? Because what if we start working on the language and develop the criteria that we want? Because I feel like last time we said, well, you can make it, the sending area has to be a minimum of 5 acres or 10 acres for it to count. So what if we work on the language and determine what we want the sending area to be, and then see what parcels fit what we want? That, okay, we know we want at least 10 acres of this, where does that fit? Instead of picking what we want to save and trying to write a bylaw around these parcels, what if we start working on the language because you had said in the past, this isn't, concrete, we can always add and take out. So let's write the rules that we want, and then see if anything else triggers, oh, that's good, oh, that's not gonna work.
But
Well,
isn't part of this to also encourage developers to do contingent parcels? So a single parcel may not qualify, but if a developer can go down there and get 3 parcels to go in together, now you've got to qualify.
So I was just going to say, though, that I think, yeah, it's a good idea to get the language, but we also have to remember that we're not just picking 10-acre parcels. These are very particular.
Right,
The things we want to protect are very particular,
right.
and they're located somewhere.
And we can limit it to upland areas or things along those lines, or new acres.
Right, so I think the more fleshed out we get in language, it will help us with those specific areas too. Otherwise, if we have areas, we'll say, okay, the sending areas are this, this, this. We don't even need a language of bylaw, but if we want the chance to change it, let's write down what's important to us, keeping these parcels in mind, but knowing that the language may inspire other ideas.
And this is why you put together a bylaw. I mean, this is a great discussion because it cements what you do when you learn about putting together a bylaw. You go back, there's a purpose, a means, and a reasonableness. The purpose is you want to save this sense of place, what Carver is. And like I said, we've been through the mapping exercise as a community at least 4 times, and all of this comes up, so you know what you want to do. The means is part of developing the map. This is how it's going to be transfer of development rates. This is where we'd like to go. This is where we'd like to get development. This is where we'd like to prevent development. Or this is what we'd like to save. This is our sense of place. The reasonableness is going to come in the language, and you need that. You need the language to help you meet your first 2. So we've been through it. We know why we convened. We know what we've been doing. We've been trying to put together. And now that's why the language will pull you back in and allow you to focus on why we came here. And a lot of times the acreage, you can know, like you said, how you want to anchor it to parcels, by parcels, what we've defined, big parcels, smaller parcels, whole bit. You're like, we don't want 1,000. But we've defined what we like and where we like it, at least where we like it. Again, going back to that sense of place, that purpose. And now the language will help us focus on how we do that, how we achieve our purpose. So I think once we have the draft language, after we have this draft map put together, and you read it, you can go back in and put everything together. It's like, here's why we're here, here's what we've done, here's what we say we'd like to do and how to do it. Does it make sense? And that'll give you that whole thing. That's what we've come here for.
So you think we should continue on the mapping, get that settled?
I think we can knock that out today and start on the
Start on
language. We've been up and down the town now. We know various iterations. Not everybody's been here at the same time too, but it's good to get everybody's input. And we have the various different maps that we have, and Helen's managed to superimpose everything for us.
Yep.
So now we can say, here's what we've said for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And now we've got to figure out how we want to do it. And the language is going to tell us how we want to do it, what we're looking for. And
And we,
that'll go right back again to the purpose, and then you can start reading it that way. You read the draft bylaw, you look at the draft map and say, okay, after 20 years, I think we figured out how it's going to work and why it's going to work. And it will help us achieve the purpose that we started out with back in 2001.
and we can come back before we pass this
Yeah.
on to adjust the map to
Yep.
more accurately reflect where we're going with it.
And like Helen said, it's flexible too. You can go back and revisit it too.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Right.
Now, I hate to bother you, but can you just pull up the full map with the sending and the receiving areas, just so we can look at it while we talk?
So it's the current status of what we're talking about.
Right.
Try to get you a little bit closer.
Because we've pretty heavily gone to the south of Carver in regards to, and that was just a couple sending areas. But I think,
Actually, could we see the outline of the town? And,
Sorry. Some things show up on the
Sorry,
computer
Sarah, you
screen.
don't wanna go drifting into Plimpton till that other project's done.
what's that? I didn't hear you.
I said, you don't want to go drifting into Plimpton
Yeah.
till that other project's done. Then we can all work together.
So yeah, sometimes things on my screen are
There we go.
good and
Now,
not.
can you scoot down to the southwest corner? Okay. So can you show us on that map what has been designated as a receiving area in the?
nothing.
Okay. Okay.
As a matter of fact, all of South Carver is just sending
Well,
areas.
I just wanted to point out, if I may, can you go up there, Connie?
Mhm.
So this, oh no, thank you. So this whole, so this is Route 58 here? So this whole area in here is pretty much wet. There's a huge reservoir over on the side, and Crane Brook and a whole bunch of other brooks get together down there. Just so we don't think that, you know, it might be something of receivable nature down there.
Well, I think without the lack of public water would preclude any.
Well, there's actually a lack of land, because it's mostly water down there.
Yeah, that's right, you brought that up the last time, but lack of water, lack of infrastructure. Now you're, like you're saying, lack of land is really.
Yeah.
Now, can we bring it up towards the center of town? Because if we're gonna allow development in the center of town, we should be protecting some of the well, I see we've got a fair, it looks pretty well built out in that area.
It is.
And how about to the north?
Well,
I see, what, Pond Street, Cranberry Bog.
you have the Spring Street Extension area
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, it's kinda out there, but and there's no public water supply that from
Well,
town of Carver.
they're right, yeah, they could maybe get it from Plimpton, I don't know.
But it is a industrial area, and it is on the highway, and I
Yeah.
personally would like to see more development along the major route than rather kind of sidled off.
Well, actually, I shouldn't have said that, Connie, because I'm not sure, I don't think Plimpton has public water.
No, Plimpton has no public water. In
But
fact, in that side of town that's, in the Plymouth Carver Aquifer still,
Yeah.
that's probably the best source of potential public water in the future, but there's nothing out there. So you'd have to sink a well up there if you wanted to do something anyways.
Well, or they could also get it from the coal property, which is almost kind of right between the two red areas.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a long distance for them to bring a water line, but
that is. That'd be
It's
pretty
there.
expensive.
Now, what's the big open space to the right of the North Carver Green? Oh, those are the big cranberry bogs out there?
no, what you're pointing at, Helen, is the coal property.
Oh, yeah, a little down, right there, yeah. Now, what are we looking at in that, because High Street and Plymouth Street both are scenic.
They are. I think that's,
This is owned by Bayside Agricultural Inc.
oh, that's, those are Beaton's bogs.
Deaton, yeah,
Peter
that's
Beaton's
right.
bogs,
That
and he
must
has some
be a-
solar on there.
Off
Yep.
Gate Street.
That's off Gate Street, yeah.
I personally would like to see that other orange there taking out and put in there as saving area, but there's no infrastructure there to support.
Now, what are those lots?
Those are behind the Christmas Tree Farm, Gate Street and High Street. There's a little area in there. I'm not familiar with it from,
Those have been designated receiving areas?
yeah, we put it on to consider it, but
Oh,
with
I
Gate
think,
Street and
no, that's a-
not,
it's a bad idea. Right next to a Christmas tree farm?
yeah, I can't tell where the Christmas tree farm is.
It's right off Plymouth Street. It's,
But I knew some of the issues we had with it were creating entranceways from Plymouth Street and High Street and kind of limiting it to Gate Street.
well, it looks like there's no access. Yeah, they look pretty landlocked to me. It looks like a bog road.
Yeah, I
That's
think the
about it.
thought was maybe it could come in from here, but, or from here, maybe.
Is that a bog road going back through? It looks like cart path or bog road.
It's a bog road, but that's not a public way.
Yeah, that's,
There's no railroad right away.
no.
Yeah.
Well, and remember, it's not that these places can't be developed, but making it a receiving area just means it can be developed more than normal. So if you don't think that'd be a good area for extra density, let's take, maybe it doesn't have to be a sending area, but let's take it out of receiving, so it's not even more dense, you know?
Back to the language.
Just leave it normal.
When we want to use mixed use, are we going to include commercial uses in there?
Not in those three parcels.
Well, not, I wouldn't
Not
put
there.
it in those parcels.
Not next to the Christmas tree farm.
But, I mean, coffee shops and, I mean, if you're gonna put in an increased density and you want a more village-type feel with mixed-use houses in it,
Right, I think you want to have, say, on your 58 corridor type, where you have it all
Yeah.
already lined out.
it would be my recommendation to pull those off, but that's, I'll leave it up to the committee to discuss that.
I agree.
Hey, you guys, collectively, you guys want those off? We can just pull them right now.
Yes, just make them normal.
I make a motion that we take those off as receiving areas, those three or two orange areas.
Now,
Wait a minute, there was no second, no vote.
now there's,
Wait a second.
there really isn't any access back there, huh?
No,
No, you just got that bog road, that's it.
Yeah, so we don't wanna encourage that.
No.
Connie, I made a motion.
I don't think we need those, though, because we're just kind of adding fluidly.
Oh, no, I think I made a motion to remove those two areas.
Okay.
Helen can't just do that because I said so.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, we'll take a vote. Fran, if it's all right, we'll start with you.
Fran Mello says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Jen Bogart says aye.
And,
you.
and I agree, we shouldn't, we should leave them as normal.
Yeah.
All right, so when we pull back a little bit, we can see a little better where our concentrations are gonna be. And for the most part, we have kept them in the commercial and industrial zones,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
are important,
Mm-hmm.
because, I think a big part of the bylaw is bringing residential and mixed use into those areas. And we have a pretty good section of sending areas. Now, is there anything in particular that we've outlined on previous maps that we're not paying attention to as far as scenic or?
Have we, the meeting I had to miss, did you guys look at Meadow Street, Cross Street, Hopes Point Road as being sending areas at all?
No.
Well, that was the hard part, was when it was either Bruce or Connie or both of them had said they're seeing a lot of things at the planning board where people are carving A&Rs around bogs, and it's unfortunate. And I had asked Bill or Helen after, how can we realistically protect the upland around each bog? But I don't see how we can do that without protecting the entire parcel, but then it might be broken off into areas that we don't want. How do you protect the part of upland around a bog that's visible from scenic roads when it's just part of a parcel right now? Because it seemed like that's what you guys are seeing, that's what we'd like to see less of.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't know how to accomplish that. I'd love to accomplish that, but I don't see that happening without just saving every parcel that has a bog on it, which then makes a giant area, which to Fran's point, ends up with a, ton of density, so.
But it's not just parcels that have bogs. I mean, I was talking about other areas as well, but,
But to that question, so my answer would be that you say you designate your sending areas on the map, and then I don't know if you always want to do it, or maybe you make preference in certain areas, but you can say, there's a whole applicability section, right? So just say the sending area is along the road.
So like it has to have frontage?
Yeah.
See, that's what I'm saying. We got to start with the language because that might make more sense. Like,
that's-
we want to accomplish something, but we're not seeing how we can do it, but the language just got us there,
That's your reasonableness.
which is,
That's your reasonableness. You got the map, you got it on there, Helen's saying, put it in there,
right.
define it.
Otherwise, we're going to turn the whole thing yellow.
Mhm.
But that accomplished what we've been talking about
Yep.
without making everything along Meadow Street and all those streets yellow. That language right there. So,
Right, Meadow Street has seen a lot of activity, I think, in terms of the planning board in regards to people opening up their properties for a variety of interests, from solar to development, so,
Meadow Street?
right? Is it,
Yep.
is that where we were looking at a few of the
One-
prop?
Yeah, one,
We've had some A&Rs,
Solar
yeah.
That area, there's like,
well, there's 223 Meadow Street, kind of on the Middleborough line on the river there. And then just the property just south of it, there's a new proposal coming in for that, for a solar project.
and then we had the other residential solar project, in the backyard, like button the cranberry bogs.
So, is this gonna be,
I know they pulled it, I thought it was like 13 acres, they were looking.
oh, the 223 Meadow?
Oh, is that what it was?
Right, so that one's continued, so they had to do some work. And then, depending what happens at town meeting, if the planning board has an article on the agenda to make some changes to the solar bylaw, they may try to take advantage of some of those changes. And the same thing with this new development, which I don't know if you remember, there was the father and the son that were the butters there on
Yes, yeah.
Copper, not Copper,
Upper Lantern Lane? No.
no, that's the townhouse development,
Mm.
but Cobblestone Lane.
Okay, yeah.
So Cobblestone Lane goes in, the son's property is to the north, the father's property is to the south, and then there's another parcel with the bogs on it.
And is the solar project being proposed to be behind the father and son parcel?
It's,
Uh,
they're in the back, so.
Yeah.
Right, so it's gonna be kind of on the southern portion of the father's agricultural parcel.
Okay. But is it visible from the street? Like to,
No,
point?
No.
both parcels are not visible.
No.
Okay.
The Wenham Cemetery, it's just off to the top right of the map there. Now, I don't know, it's a quaint little area
Mhm.
on the end of, yeah, there it is. I don't know if there's any savable areas in that land to keep it a little more rural.
So, if I may, so when you go into Plymouth and you hit Bunny's Road, and you drive down Bunny's Road and cross back over into Carver, that purple area there, I believe is that one. Mhm. I believe that's the roughly 600 acres or so off Bunny's Road that Makepeace owns.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that is definitely savable, I think. But it's where they put their solar panels over a ditch recently. But, I mean, there's so much, they could put A&Rs in there tomorrow. you know,
Right.
And it would be tragic, because it's
right.
kind of an important piece of land right on that
And
pond.
it connects through to the Pond Street cranberry bogs.
I don't know what the Pond Street cranberry bogs
There's
means.
there's a lot of bog in that.
Is that Flax
Yeah.
Pond cranberry?
Yeah, that's, I see.
Flax Pond cranberry?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that name should be revised.
It's from the open space plan, so whatever.
That's
it is.
okay, it's not your fault.
I think that's something to consider. That's a very large parcel. I know it's mostly water-based.
The one under Wenham Center, yeah, that one, where you were, Helen, up above.
I
Sorry.
think it's that whole complex between the Bow Street neighborhood up to Meadow Street, or South Meadow. And then, yeah, that whole
Yeah.
thing is all contiguous owned by Makepeace.
By Makepeace, yeah. But I'm talking specifically about the upper the part that looks like a head, yeah, right there, sort of a comic head, that's the land off of Bunny's Road. And that's, I think, a very important piece of land. It's right off of Darby Pond and Fresh Meadow Pond. And to your point, Connie, that if that were protected, then I think that area would still have that same feel to it that you're thinking of.
Right. Well, it's important. Well, I'm asking, what is the level of importance to this area to our water supplies and developmental areas? Because I can see that, is that a river or
It's Darby Pond.
that's a pond?
It's in Plymouth. When you cross the line, it becomes Fresh Meadow Pond in Carver.
Okay.
Well, I mean, all of that is important to our groundwater.
Yeah, but it's just hard because it's just one
Right.
giant.
I know. Well, years ago, I forget how many years ago it was now, because Makepeace has been having these meetings with the towns over the course of years about the Tohonet mixed-use development, which I don't know if it actually is in Carver, but one meeting I went to that they had, the representative stood up and said that in Carver, as of that day, they could build 525 A&R lots, approval not required lots. So, I mean, that was just a factual statement that they made. So, you know, if we're worried about our water, that's one thing we'd like to try not to let happen.
I seem to remember looking at the potential build-out as around 3,500 more houses
Yeah, 32,000 people, yeah.
for the town of Carver.
Right, but so how do we do that without someone saying, okay, I'm gonna carve out 10 acres in the middle of that property that I'm willing to give you, that's really not the 10 acres you care about? That's the tough part, like, we wanna save that, but like, not some random acreage, which might come in play from the language. So, it's hard. We wanna save a lot, Sarah, we wanna save a lot.
Yeah, I would like to see it saved, but I don't think it really meets the criteria we're looking for as far as,
Visibility from the
yeah.
road. What's on the road?
Because, I mean, if we could break it up, it'd be one thing, but that's somebody else's prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can maybe have some options, and if you make the language too elaborate, it's kind of crazy, but like,
Yeah.
but if you are talking about buffering certain sensitive hydrological features or water supply features, I mean, so this is like a half mile buffer would capture a lot of that.
Okay, and that's around the pond?
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah, that's the
we
area I
work
was
on the
thinking of
language.
specifically of protecting.
The other thing to remember too is maybe TDR is not the tool you want to use in some instances, so you have some other
Right,
tools
Yep.
I think you're right.
to use to manage development.
Such as what, for example?
Oh, you have, so some may not come in, and it depends on where they want to put the 500. It's not with this parcel I'm taking, but, you incentivize some things, so instead of a whole slew of A&R lots along a street, if there's something off the street where you could incentivize them to go in something where, yeah, you're using the uplands, maybe that's something you want to encourage versus having them split everything in our lots.
Yeah.
Right.
So could I just, do you mind if I just?
No, please do.
So if you could just move that out a little again. So that top, this area here, I think is the one, that this part where your little hand is probably the one you want to protect somehow. Now, Bunny's Road comes in there somehow, I don't quite see it here, but.
Yeah, it's kind of welded into the.
There's a little
But
five
if
pieces
you
of
zoom
it.
out a little bit more,
It comes in from,
and let us see down here. So So it seems to me that one of the places that wouldn't be, and again, the neighbors may not like this, but this is already crowded, so, you know, if they wanted to put A&R lots there.
Right, right. I see that as, yeah.
It'd be better because that way you protect Fresh Meadow Pond and all the little ponds around. And that goes into,
The only way you could get in there would be through it's currently town-owned land at the end of Wade Street. I think it's that green.
well, you could get in off Bunny's Road, but you wouldn't maybe allow them to build in that area. The road would go down into this bottom part, that was all I was
Well,
thinking.
it looks like they have access also on the north side there to, right there, yeah.
Costs a lot of money to build a road. If you're gonna, you know,
Well,
take a road and build it all the way through that land to
well,
develop in a certain area.
Developing around that entire pond is what,
Well, they probably have a variety of ways to get in there.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge parcel,
Mm.
and they probably have more than,
yeah, I
More
can
than
see
just
a couple
funds for
others,
that.
yep.
I would think.
I think that's too extensive and a little outside of our criteria.
So, I mean, since we're just in draft mode and this will be changing, is it reasonable for us to kind of like just cut this for now, kind of here, along this plane, and then come back to this discussion, but not maybe lose it right
Yeah,
now?
no,
I'm sorry, you said cut the bottom part and keep the top part?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That probably makes the most sense. The thing I was thinking of too is, you know, Jim said something too. He said, TDR may not be the answer to everything. It's not gonna be the
Right.
Swiss Army knife of preservation. So what you probably have to do is still look at the areas that you wanted to preserve. Again, that goes back to the purpose of the whole exercise of looking at your bylaws and figure out strategies. And you may want to refer back to different documents. I was just talking to Helen. This may be an area that was identified in the Plymouth Carver Aquifer Open Space Plan and Management Plan as a future potential water supply area or something to look at. So you look at it that way, and when you know, deal with the developer, if they come in, just say, hey, look, this has been identified as a priority area in 2 existing plans. So even if you do come in here, maybe it's a conservation development type of strategy you want to employ, because you're gonna need the water as much as everybody else around you. You know, this was put out in a regional plan. This isn't just our thing.
That's a good idea.
And they know about that plan because they were there at the table. That's why we did that.
That's right,
plan.
that's right. And they should like that because it allows them to build a shorter road. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, but, so that's.
Can I ask Fran and Sarah something, because you guys weren't here last time, I'd like your opinions. Last time I kind of made a case, and then it went back and forth, about the King Richard's Fair area. And I liked the idea of having that be a sending area, because I think it's such an awesome parcel of land that the town could have. It's big, it's open, it's clear. I just see a ton of potential for the town. And when we're thinking of town that, land the town could use in the future, I really loved that area. And then the discussion said, yeah, but it would be a great place for a development because you can't see it from the road, and you could put a bunch of houses back there. But then I was thinking between then and now, like, yeah, you could, but do we want a ton of houses there? And I was thinking, like, it's just it's a unique piece of land. Like, a lot of our sending areas are about the sensitive water and stuff, but we haven't, I don't think we've sent a lot of areas of places we could use too. So I really liked the idea of King Richard's Fair land. I don't think it made it into it, but I would just love to know what you ladies think, because you weren't here last time.
Could you bring it up? I think it's is it a little south of where you are? Because where that little yellow dot is, I think we put those.
Well, it's above Sampson's. It's right near, yeah, it's below, okay.
Because I thought we put some sending areas on the road for it.
Yeah, but it was like either side of the driveway for the land.
So
Wait a
it's
minute,
that-
go back
that
down.
yellow
So it's
square at the
below
very
Savory
bottom.
Avenue,
Yeah.
at the very end
Right,
of
nope,
Savory.
it's at the top now.
Above Union
That's it.
Church,
That's the
right
one.
there. Yep,
Well, if I recall, it was either side of it, and the talk was if that land were to be developed, at least the areas on either side were protected so you couldn't see it from the road.
Right.
But that doesn't really speak to my idea
Yeah.
of saving the actual land.
can I say something about that?
Please,
Yeah.
yes. I missed you guys last time.
And in the meantime, Helen, could you show us, I'm sorry, could you just show us the parcel map, parcel outlines, so when Fran talks, we know what we're looking at?
That land backs the conservation land that the state bought.
Yep.
So when you talk about putting parcels together with land that's already protected, that parcel abuts protected land.
So do you think it's a good idea to send it?
How much land? It looks like a huge piece
Well,
of
oh,
land.
and that's where maybe Helen and Bill can help us with language there too, so it doesn't get A&R'd to pieces. But I just found that area so unique and valuable.
Now, are we
Well,
looking
That-
at,
Is it this whole,
It's like kind of brown, looks like a dirt lot. Looks
so
like-
all of that?
So Fran is right. If you scoot up just a tiny bit, I mean, I think she's right, to Savory Avenue? Okay. Okay, now just scoot down. Savory Avenue, you see Savory Avenue there on the right, coming down 58? Okay, so you go, move down, that whole area between Savory Avenue and almost to Meadow Street.
Yep,
Fish and Game just bought that. It's 510 acres, I think.
Yep.
So it's the Atwood Reservoir Wildlife Management Area. And Fran is right, this abuts that to the bottom. And then if town meeting approves it, they will also own there's like a 33-acre parcel right next to their parcel that will make that whole extensive area be protected from Savory Avenue to Meadow Street. So that's just a long way of saying that I think it's a good idea to protect it. if we
Yeah.
can. I mean, right now, I think it's being used in a good way. personally.
Right,
yep.
It's commercial property,
yeah,
nice use,
right.
yeah.
But if it were to ever come up, I just personally, and the thinking before, that was a unique one that jumped out. As I drove around town and thought of specific areas that were special. And you guys weren't here, so I just wanted to know what you
Can you
thought.
pull up that parcel so we can look at the acreage?
It was a lot last time, and again,
It's pretty big.
again, to your point of what kind of density are we,
and the blue is wetland.
Yep, right.
Yeah, there's a lot of wetland down there. But, I mean, going to protecting our groundwater, that's what wetlands do, so.
So the whole parcel, and
And it's commercial, so it's not residential. Does that make a difference?
Well, part of the TDRs is kind of oriented towards commercial and bringing residential and mixed use into it.
But you don't necessarily have to do that. You could
Right.
have certain areas designated for residential and others designated for commercial use.
Well, I
Or mixed
think-
use.
This one is that zone commercial, that parcel?
Mhm.
Okay.
That's what it
Well,
looks
the
like.
underlying zoning is always residential agricultural, though.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I just think it makes a nice contingent area along a main road.
And since it abuts all of the land that you were talking about, that is so wooded and wetlands, it's kind of neat potential to also have an open area to go with the conservation land and recreation purposes and other stuff.
Yeah,
It just was really special to me.
I agree.
And I don't want to be me, more so not me, but it was just it was an idea I felt passionately about.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know your opinions, so.
Well, I think it's an important piece.
I would love to see it in the sending area, but I am just one of us.
Me too.
Me three, I see the importance of that land, and I think it would be great to be part of the town, but, again, it's hard to, because it's so behind everything, and then you're looking at people coming in to put in large developments, and, is it better to make a receiving area to save other areas?
Yeah.
Or just to leave it alone and keep it as, well, like Bill said, more of a conservation subdivision, or,
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with the conservation subdivision
Yeah.
going in there.
That would be.
I'd have a problem with the commercial development
Yeah, me too.
going in there.
Yeah, conservation subdivision, because there's a lot of, I mean, that was, I don't know this for a fact, so disclaimer, number one, but that was probably all fill, 50 years ago or something, because it's just all wet around there.
because if you built where all the dirt is there and conserved the rest of it, that would be the entire purpose of the conservation
Yeah.
subdivision.
Yeah, that would be
You'd
terrific,
still be getting a really nice piece.
absolutely.
Of course, we'd lose our ability to joust and eat giant turkey legs.
Yeah, but we've lost that ability anyway, unfortunately,
Well, you never know.
for better or for worse.
Could be a Renaissance fair themed development there.
And you might
residential
be,
development.
who knows, they seem to have had some success with the drive-in theater down there,
Oh,
and,
good.
and again, that's, pretty low impact ecologically.
Yeah, definitely.
And it might encourage them to maintain the old park, should it ever come to that.
Mhm.
Is there a way to distinguish if it's developed, to make it a conservation subdivision? I don't know if it's part of this process or something else, but if we see that being a good idea, is there any way for the town to do that?
Well, if the town had some sort of bylaw saying that anything over, how many acres is that? Like, let's say 50 acres must be developed into a conservation subdivision, because I think it
Unfortunately-
should be along those lines anyways.
Unfortunately, it's not legal to approach it that way.
I can't
Okay.
hear you.
All right, it's just not legal to approach it that way, unfortunately.
Right, yeah, you couldn't say that, but you could encourage it.
The town does have a number of different sub-bylaws on the book, so you have, you can look at townhouse, you can look at conservation subdivision, maybe, maybe there'd be 4 different areas that would come under different treatments depending on, what look good. And then also on the books are planned neighborhood developments, so that could come under one of those developments.
Although, about the planned neighborhood development, I think the same challenge exists here, is that I don't see a map with that on it. So I don't even know where the planned neighborhood development
Oh, okay. Well, so.
is.
Oh, sorry.
Right, I thought it was tied into the TDR program.
It kind of is, but it shouldn't be, because again, it's the same issue of this. There's no defined area, and, I mean, you can bring it in, but it adds another layer of complexity to an already complex situation, and then you can't make this the only parcel.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So to your point, Jim, though, if you could modify your conservation subdivision bylaw, because the way it's written now, don't you have to have a certain number of acreage, and then X number of acres of that has to be preserved in conservation, and then the applicant's given a couple of choices. It can go to the Conservation Commission, it can go to an association, it could.
Right,
So if you changed it so that it had to go to the Conservation Commission, for example, then you would get that protection that you're looking for. But that's up to the planning board.
Because I know we'd love to see that in there, but again, I'm just thinking of, well, it's an option, we can encourage someone, but we can't make them. But if we put it in a sending area, then that, again, that's encouraging someone to use TDR. None of this is required. So, we can hope for a conservation subdivision, but it's not guaranteed. So I don't know that we should just leave that land alone, hoping that something else works.
Well-
Putting it in sending would at least tell someone we are really interested in this land if it ever became available to the town.
That's true, but it's also true that if they came to you, the planning board, with a conservation subdivision, if they were required, see, the nice thing about them, as you know, it shortens the road, which the developer likes.
Yep.
They get a little bit less frontage, everything's a little tighter together, and then they have to put the other, 55 acres or whatever in conservation. If it's required that that be the Conservation Commission, then you've really protected it. That's just.
So let's do both. Let's put it in sending, but then do what you're saying too.
Well, what I'm saying is up to the planning board to do it. It would require a tweak of that.
Well, you could tweak the conservation bylaw, I guess. I mean, you have to take a look at these things carefully, because if you start tweaking the bylaws, then it makes it so that the developer just doesn't want to use that bylaw anymore.
No, this would make it very easy, because now they have so many choices about what to do with it that half the time it doesn't get protected. It goes to the association, and no one knows who's under control and who's paying the tax.
You're just saying, just make sure that it goes to the
Yeah,
conservation?
that's all. That would be real simple.
Yeah, I don't know how that works
would-
exactly
I think
now,
it's-
but,
Right, I think you have to leave it as a choice,
Yeah.
so that you don't run into, like a takings issue.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine then. I'm just suggesting that, the planning board might want to keep that in mind to encourage,
well, we could take a look at that.
yeah.
I want to
I'm-
make sure we didn't lose the sending areas that were previously up there.
Nope, yeah, I just turned the layer off, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I can take this, I put
Yeah.
it in, but we can take it back out whenever you guys think.
I mean, to me, we have a lot of sending areas, but we don't have a lot of receiving areas.
Well, again,
And I
that
don't
goes
know.
back to what we talked about at the beginning. There's not a lot of places to send it to.
Yeah,
It's
and-
just the way it is.
so if we run out
You
of,
could make an argument that that's already a developed area, not developed, but it's potentially developable. Maybe you use that as one of your receiving areas, and then, because that allows for some growth in the town, and then the town has mechanisms in its current bylaws, it has the rate of growth requirement, so if someone comes in, then they would have to kind of phase their development over time. And then you also have the various existing tools that the town could use. For example, Helen brought up the neighborhood, or the planned neighborhood development. So maybe there's some tweaks to that to make that a more usable section of the bylaw that someone could use to develop it, but to develop it in a sensitive way to create one of these little areas where you have little walkable neighborhoods, but there's also a lot of open space. And then you incentivize it so that they'll open up that open space to the general park, to the general public. Maybe they'll have, like, they could, part of the design could be parking areas so that other residents from other areas of town could come in and park and then access the Atwood Reservoir property.
Yeah, that would sound good.
yeah,
So I think it's just a matter of, it's not like, oh, you do this or you do this. It's, the tools that we have allow for that, preserving the open space, yet at the same time allowing a certain level of development. That, because the town's gonna need some housing in the future, so
Yep.
here's an area that's already developed. So maybe this is the area that should be designated for development. And then you just figure, okay, well, what's the, kind of the density caps we should consider for this area? So, yeah, you can have over here a ascending area, it's gonna send certain credits over, but how do we manage that so it doesn't overwhelm? Because one of the, critical concerns are, okay, does it have the septic capacity? And then do they have the water capacity on site to put in wells to provide the water for it? So those are other constraints that are gonna be part of the whole package to review it. You gotta cut out all the wetland areas, so that's gonna shrink the amount of developable land down. And then in some cases, if you factor in the 100-foot buffers and all that, there could be that little island down in the south you can't even get to, because then you need a wetlands crossing to get through there. So that's shrinking the overall size of it down, and then, maybe you have enough so that, I think it's the gross acres are about 75 acres. So you could be, you could probably wipe off 25 acres right there, and
Yeah.
maybe the maximum is 50, 50 housing units on that site.
And then don't your lots have to be 70% upland?
So if you're doing some form of cluster development, whether it's townhouses or single families, you know, you may want to have a bylot that doesn't require having specific lots, it's just clustering the houses, and then they're enough distance from, other properties, so that you don't have this sort of invasion of privacy thing going
Right.
on,
But your A and R lots, your approval not required lots require 70% upland, right?
I believe so, it's about that ratio. And I think
Yeah.
also lots within the subdivision, a subdivision, it depends on how it's created.
Okay.
So it's, you could do something where, all right, you look at this one whole parcel, and then you have multiple residences on one parcel, but they're not on individual parcels.
Right.
And so it gives it flexibility, maybe it gives you more buffer along the edges.
Right.
And you concentrate it more in the center, but then, people might like that as an alternative.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a, a nice little neighborhood where you can meet the neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
have your own little private area, but then you have lots of open space areas to go
Yeah.
hiking, walking, maybe there's,
And there's a
I'm
commercial.
not sure where the reservoir is from, if it's
Atwood
how far
Reservoir?
away.
Can you back it out, Helen, so we can just get a,
I think it's,
yeah, it's to the left. See, it looks like
Right there.
Texas? Yeah, that's it.
that's the reservoir itself. And I'm not sure how close it is, but maybe there's an opportunity for, as part of that development, there's a spot where you can, load in your canoes or kayaks or whatever.
Yeah, they have a couple of parking places there, yeah.
And actually, that lot of land, there's a pathway that goes right into that,
Yeah.
the new conservation area
Right.
from
Yeah.
that lot of
It actually
land.
looks like there's a bog road that connects from the yellow over to that light blue area,
It's
kind
a,
of at an angle.
yeah, I think it's just a little walking trail through the
Yeah.
woods.
Yeah,
And you can walk around, they bought the reservoir, but they didn't buy the rights to the southern and eastern pathway around the reservoir, so they bought the
this
northern,
one right here,
yeah,
that doesn't belong to them.
that's right. So, but you can walk along the northern and western
Yeah.
edges of the reservoir.
So you're not supposed to come into this area
Right.
here.
Right.
The rest of it is all walkable.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to throw out one other lifeline, because there's nothing stopping these people from doing that. TDR bylaw or not, it would still be possible to put in a conservation subdivision.
Yeah.
But that plot, I'm thinking municipally, down the road, what if the town needed a plot of land to build something, maybe not even recreation? How many other plots of land are there in town that are available that are already leveled and open if the town were to need something down the line? I just see that, again, the word is potential. We can have all these amazing ideas. These can all still happen with the canoes and everything. But I just,
The TDR is calling for these lots of land to go into a conservation trust.
but I don't,
That they couldn't-
is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
No,
So you can't develop
no,
it.
It's undevelopable, but it still belongs to the landowner, so they can still farm it, or a variety of uses for it. Is that not true? They're just selling the development rights as it stands.
I'd have to take another look at that,
Just for the record, we're not talking about the current owners of that land, we're talking in general.
In
Right.
general, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just make-
No.
Yeah.
People will be listening to this TV show.
Oh, right, well, so for instance, the current owners of that land could sell off all the development rights except for the park itself, and
Right.
the parking lot, but in that way, nothing else can be built on it, but
Yeah.
they don't necessarily have to transfer it into a conservation protection trust, it's just prohibited from development.
If they were to choose to make themselves a receiving area?
Right, right.
Yeah. Mhm.
And on the other hand, as a sending area, it's large enough for a small village in there.
It is.
And that could save multiple other acres
Right.
True.
throughout the town.
True. That is a good point. I
So
mean,
it-
I just, we don't know what the town's gonna need in the future as we grow. The town's gonna grow and grow. Our municipality might need more, and it's just already, it's cleared and it's big, and it is on 58, so it's accessible to people. I would,
Well, the real question is, where would we get the money? I mean, because that's a big piece of land.
Personally, I would think to just leave it and hope that with encouragement and everything, that we could continue to bring people into King Richard's Fair, hopefully by the end of this year, and keep them going for a sustainability.
Right.
Because we can always add this in, and if the town feels that maybe
Right.
it's not looking so good for them, it gives us a chance to gather some resources to take a closer look at it.
yeah, that kind of gets back to my original point of we can start small and grow big. I just want to know what you ladies thought about the parcel. That's all.
I think it's important, but I also think it's possible that some of the possibilities that Jim outlined would work too, and would still help to protect the important outlying pieces of that parcel.
Yeah, it's just, you would hope a developer does that, and sometimes I don't have hope in developers, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So what have we decided?
So I guess just leave it as is, I guess.
I think that's the safest way to treat it, if you, right?
Okay.
First, it doesn't have municipal water supply to make it a receiving area, but that doesn't mean that down the line that might not change, or the town might have an influx of funds.
Well, it doesn't have to have a municipal water supply to be a receiving area. I mean, somebody could want to build, I mean, I don't think it does. I think someone could build on that cleared spot, like Jim was outlining, right? And they could have,
You could have
Multiple
multiple
wells.
wells,
Right, they have
yeah.
multiple wells.
yeah.
So I think they're doing that up with, well, they were looking into that. Originally, I think they were, for Santana Way, I think that.
That's gonna be
approved for
public water, yeah.
But then they were also looking at putting in individual wells,
Mm-hmm.
because they had a tiff with the water district, and then
Yeah.
now they went back, I believe, to the
Well,
public water.
when you're looking at a big piece of land like that, you have room for multiple wells and septic, so you can space them apart there.
Exactly.
But,
Because
But-
down here at Carver Square Boulevard,
what was that?
down here in the center of town, there are multiple wells.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's-
Yeah, oh, yeah, you can put in multiple wells. I mean, the problem is if you have a small lot, you can't put in a bunch of wells, because you just can't separate it from the septic systems you have to have. Yeah. But, I mean, a piece like that, I mean, I can see both ways. I love Atwood Reservoir, I plan to go fishing there this summer with my new canoe, so, and I'm gonna carry it down, so. But also, it's a great place, and you can also take, like, many, builders might come, might have a few people here and there that have sending areas, and so, you can accommodate different, projects there. But,
I think Bruce is making the argument, it'd be a good spot for over 55, lesser cost housing.
I mean,
He has a nice house he wants to sell.
Is that what he was saying?
yeah, I mean, and I could see a project in there where if you could cluster it and, have trails going out to the reservoir and stuff like that, that it would really be nice. When I think of the land that we want to save, of course, I'd like to see a lot of the land saved, but I also like to have it so that the residents can have, because my wife and I are always looking for places to hike and walk and bike and stuff like that, too. So,
Public access.
yeah, I mean, and so many towns do that, so it's nice to have a purpose for the properties that we're saving, too, so. And a lot of towns now are doing bike trails. We're talking about Cranberry Road and how busy some of these roads are. But a lot of towns have been putting in paved bike trails along the side of the road so people can walk and bike.
That's nice.
And then they also kind of weave it through, like, connecting roads, but going through town properties, like where they have big pieces of land for schools and libraries, so they'll take the path, they'll wind it off of one road, bring it through the town properties and back of the libraries and schools.
Yeah, where
And
all the
then bring
kids-
it out and connect up to another road.
Where all the kids cut through from school to get to the center of town.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of ways that, you can do that too. But it's nice to have those properties useful.
Oh, yeah.
But that particular parcel there is great because it's just on Route 58 too, and you're just down the street from 44, and you're down the street from the Southern Exchange, so as far as development, that would be an ideal place for development.
But it would be ideal for the town too.
Oh, yeah, well.
Like, I would
it's a
rather
good
see
piece.
the town on that than some giant dense development going. Like Sarah said, Makepeace can put in 500 something. Well, if we get some sort of cluster thing in there, how many people are living there? Probably a good portion, a good percentage of what Makepeace could have done. It's great for a developer to have people there, but I think it would be great for the town to have that land too. I'm used to losing.
No, it's true.
I'll lose,
No, no,
but
no, it's not.
I would much rather see the town own that if possible. And again, putting it in a sending area does not guarantee it will happen. I just love the idea of telling a developer, we love this, we value this land.
Well, Jen, I think you know that I love that idea too, but the problem is, as Bruce pointed out, it's in a pretty, pretty appropriate place for someone who might want to develop. But having said that, there might be ways where the developer could be encouraged to protect most of it.
Right.
I mean, my question, I'd love for the town to buy everything that comes to us, but first there's a question of where we're going to get the money. I mean, that's a big parcel, Makepeace owns 3,000 acres in Carver, so, this is pretty small compared to that. And I'd rather see that upper part of Bunny's Road protected, frankly. Not that I don't think this is important, it is, but I guess we do have to make some decisions,
It really doesn't have to be an either-or. I mean, as long as you're thinking and that you do have the tools at your disposal to do it, that, you have to use those tools in the appropriate situations. And one thing, when a developer comes to town, the first thing they're gonna look at is your master plan. Then they'll look at your bylaws. Then they'll look at your subdivision rules and regulations. And if there are ancillary plans, they'll look at your open space plan and any regional planning that you've been involved in. Because that's how they engage the town before they know you. When they come in and make their approach, they're gonna be familiar with their plans or the people that they hire to come in and approach you. They're gonna be familiar with your plans. You've got a good master plan. You're gonna have a TDR bylaw to work with. You're gonna have an open space plan that's updated, but your open space plan's good right now. You have regional plans. So it's a matter of knowing how to use those tools. And if there are things that are stated, directly stated in your master plan, like, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to do it, this is our vision for Carver, then you have the room to negotiate.
Yeah.
You can say, you don't have to tell me what my master plan says, I already know. And I'd be happy to work with you, because in a place like this is what we'd like to do, this is the vision we have for Carver. And you negotiate. A lot of times it gets to be, too much of this right off the bat,
Yeah.
and negotiation goes out the window. So TDR is gonna be a tool just like everything else you have, just like the things Jim was rattling off before. So just don't lose sight of the fact that you have these things, and you should use them when it's appropriate, and you should use them where it's appropriate.
Well, and this is an approach I'm not familiar with here in Massachusetts, but I think there is some kind of function where you can do a redevelopment study for a parcel, and the ones that I'm familiar with at our shop are malls or old properties like that. And so, and I wish I knew more to tell you, but this might be a candidate for something like that. I'm just not really sure. But
Yeah, definitely.
But that's really the only parcel-specific study that I can think of at the moment that might accomplish some of what you're trying to do here.
So we're getting to 6:30. Are there some other areas we want to think of for the sending areas, or do we want to have, we kind of mapped out some areas for sending areas and then come up with criteria to say, okay, some piece that we didn't think about now comes up in the future, it gives the planning board an opportunity to kind of review and say, okay, yeah, you know what, it makes sense to include this piece of property because they met the various criteria for a sending area to be used.
Yeah, would it be all right if,
Take what we got and rock it and roll it and put some draft language together?
well, what I was going to say was if you could send us that map
Mhm.
and just give us maybe until the next meeting, because I think there probably are some more sending areas that, but I just want to look at the map and compare it to my maps.
Sure.
We'll give
All
it a
right,
flesh
how
out, 'cause
about-
not everybody's here this time.
Yeah, and there's that too, yeah.
But we will revisit it at the end. But yes, I think everybody's gonna have to start doing a little reading on their TDR bylaws for our next meeting, because I
Yeah.
think we're gonna get into the specifics of the language. We've all talked about how we feel about what we're looking to keep, save, and develop, and what's appropriate in regards to that.
Right.
So keep that in mind when we're going through the language.
And you'll be here with the maps and all, Helen? next-
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right, and what we can do too is we can start developing some of the language based on what we've been doing with the mapping and some of the conversations that we've had, because we've been taking notes on it. And that way we start developing those tools, that language that
Great.
you really need. We'll get into the third phase and just start nailing it down.
Yeah, that sounds good.
'Cause
Yeah, and I mean, please.
It looks like there's a lot of sending areas up there, but it is a little deceptive, because our
Yeah.
receiving areas are fairly, with the density, I mean, look at the majority of what we're looking at for sending areas is wetlands and cranberry bogs. And we can develop that so that the appropriate areas are saved. In other words, that somebody's not carving up cranberry bogs
Yeah.
with uplands to try and put it in the mix, so.
I actually have one more question, if I may, for Helen. Helen, could you, when you do that, would you send us this map here, but with all the parcels?
Yeah.
Shown? And then one more, same thing, without parcels, but with the sending and receiving and all the wet areas?
Yeah, what I will do, so, yeah, I'll send a map that you can turn those layers on and off.
That'd be great. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, that's
um,
even better.
Let me and I know we're running late on time, but I just want to demonstrate what that is like real quick.
Now, is it like the other map you sent us? Because that one was great for
Yeah.
That was really good,
turning
yeah.
everything on and off and
Yeah,
checking my
Oh, good,
layers.
okay.
yeah. Yeah, we'll just have an updated version of that, basically.
Yeah.
So, and so was everyone able to understand that other map?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
if-
that was pretty easy to use.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
And we don't really need to do this, but,
So just send me the update.
yeah.
Yeah. So you guys get the update, you can play with that. In the meantime, we can start on the language and everybody will be,
Excellent.
Sounds good.
We really appreciate your help.
Yeah. When are we thinking for our next meeting?
So, what is it? Next week is the school vacation week. No, this is, next week is actually, that's town meeting week, but the week after, the week of the 19th is school vacation week. I put down a suggested date of May 5th. I'm not sure if that would work with everybody, or does that give us enough time? Because I know we have a few things.
May 5th, Cinco de Mayo.
Looks like,
That's Wednesday?
That should be a Monday.
if we could do the 3rd, because that's the Wednesday.
You get May 3rd here, yeah, on the,
Oh, May 3rd?
yeah, you get 5-3 there.
yeah, May 3rd?
Calendar.
Yeah, we can do the 3rd, and that's good, though. We can pump out some language.
It'll give us time, everybody time to do a little research.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what I'll update, and I'll put is the aerial the best thing to put underneath as the base map?
Yeah, I think aerial is best, and with all the streets. As long as you give us the ability to find that wetland layer, that would be great.
Yeah, all right, so I will, and basically you just go in here and you can turn things on and off. and
That's great, thanks,
fact
Ellen.
check. And if you need to see the legend, you just click the arrow, and it'll show you the.
That's great, thank you.
I'm so sorry I have to run.
It's okay.
No,
Yeah, we're
thank you.
So
I will
sorry.
entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So John, we'll see you tomorrow at 3:30? Sounds good. All right.
All right. All those in favor, Fran?
Fran Mello says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Sarah Hewen says aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, who made the motion? Who seconded?
I made it. Sarah second.
Sarah seconded.
Yep.